Hey guys, Josh here from Sportitude Running. It is shoe review time today, and I've got the very exciting New Balance SuperComp Trainer version 2 on my left, and coming from the very reputable, very popular SuperComp Trainer version 1. So New Balance had great success with this shoe in the back half of 2022 and the front half of 2023. A lot of runners took this up and have thoroughly enjoyed what this shoe has been all about. New Balance have taken those learnings and rolled it into the version 2 and made some significant improvements in my opinion. So in today's review, we're going to talk about the big differences between the 2 from the 1, give you all the information that you need at home to, who knows, potentially make this your next shoe purchase. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. Okay guys, first things first, let's just talk about why the SuperComp Trainer even exists in the first place. Now this shoe here, off the back of what we found with version 1, they executed a shoe that was going to be so versatile. It was a shoe that a lot of runners gravitated towards for easy days out in the road, or some runners that were looking to offload that forefoot with regards to that really aggressive rocker that the carbon plate had been executed inside that midsole, and also for runners that were, sort of stuck between a few shoes. I might want a shoe to do a couple of things for me. So easy days, pick the pace up, and I know some runners that even grabbed the version 1 for racing as well. We're talking to a few triathletes out there that couldn't tolerate the lightweight or the lack of stability in true, pure performance racing shoes, but wanted that push, that wanted that pop in regards to the execution of their transition, and the SuperComp Trainer version 1 gave them exactly that. So it is a versatile shoe, as I touched on. It's great for easy days. You can easily pick the pace up in this shoe, which I think has made it very, very successful in this Super Trainer category. So let's start talking about the differences. Let's jump to the outsole first. Now, the concept's the same. We have a relatively minimalistic outsole. So with version 1, as you can see, we have got that vertical decoupled line through here, which is cut away in the midsole, but you can see the carbon plate positioning with that outsole pod which sits on the carbon plate to provide an element or the protection the plate needs, so you're not going to get any unnecessary wear. The exact same thing with regards to the version 2. However, the compounded rubber is ever so slightly changed, and it has because more about the midsole changes with regards to this shoe. But the outcome or the execution part of me is pretty similar. Filling in that lateral border through here with a really nice durable hard-wearing foam and that vertical decoupled line cut away in that midsole and showing or highlighting that carbon plate or that energy arc technology which New Balance have executed in the version 2, which they had in the version 1. Jumping to the upper of this shoe, the material that New Balance have used with regards to executing the upper is exactly the same. We have an engineered mesh. However, you can see visually there is changes with regards to where the ventilation channels are, the overlays are, with regards to the execution of both uppers, so the lateral, the forefoot, and obviously the medial side as well. So with a brand, when they're addressing an upper change, they want to make sure that if they've executed a really good one, which they did in version 1, they don't want to retweak things too much. So with version 2, the biggest change with regards to the execution of the upper is actually the weight. They've used the same technology, but the upper itself is a lighter construction. Now let's talk to that as well, because if you have a lighter construction with regards to your upper, and you use the same lacing configuration, the same heel counter configuration, you're probably going to lose support. So you can see at home there, I hope you can see this, the laces actually come further down the foot with regards to version 2 in comparison to what we had with version 1, and they had an anatomical lace configuration to get that conform fit on top of that arch. Considering it was on a higher stack, which we'll get to in a second, they had to really dial in that anatomical fit with the laces to make sure that that arch stayed on top of the platform. They could take a little bit more of a relaxed approach with version 2. Now, I use the term relax, tongue-in-cheek. They certainly didn't get lazy on this upper configuration, but by having a lighter construction, they just executed a slightly longer lace gauge, which provided a more secure saddle fit with regards to version 2. The other significant change just comes in the execution of the heel counter and heel collar. The heel counter in version 1 was internal, tick. Same thing in version 2, we have an internal heel counter, almost the exact same configuration, how the same amount of support around the back of your heel. But you can see through here that version 1, we had that almost inverted tilt towards the back of your Achilles insertion through here. However, a lot of soft padding at the back. Version 2, we've got that Achilles flare. So we get the same angular tilt towards the back of that Achilles insertion into your calcaneus, but then we have that Achilles kick and flare through here. So therefore, it looks like it's deeper, but it is not. The version 2 just has that Achilles flare to provide an element of comfort, minimize the amount of friction on that vertical line with regards to your heel and how it sits inside the shoe. In regards to the other thing I need to pull out, I would talk to, pardon me, is they had like a little collar cage. I'm going to call it a collar cage. I don't even know what it's called in version 1, where the upper came up a little bit higher around the shoe. It wasn't for support. It was just more for comfort, potentially just trying to get a nice conform fit around the top of that foot underneath the ankle bones themselves. But in version 2, as you can see, it's more of a traditional fit with regards to the heel collar and the amount of padding they have used in regards to the overall comfort. The other thing I do like about version 2 is the tongue. It's thinner than what I found with version 1. And version 1, the overall fit and construction was a bit more of a booty-like setup with regards to a bit more elasticity with regards to that tongue. So you get a really, I like the fit. It was a nice conform fit. But what we have found with version 2 is you get that gusseted construction, but the tongue is a little bit thinner, and you can use the appropriate amount of laces with regards to the reference point where you want the pressure, where you want the support on top. So a little bit more flexibility on offer with regards to getting the dialed in fit that you prefer with your upper in version 2. Okay, guys, let's get to the fun part of this review and talk all things midsole. Now, while there's been change in the outsole, significant change in the upper, a lot of the change has come with regards to how New Balance have executed their midsole with this shoe. And I must say, it's a big risk, gamble, taking a punt, whatever terminology you like to use, because the success of version 1, we wanted to maintain that momentum, and with what they have done with version 2, I can confidently say I like what this shoe represents. All that being said, let's talk about the statistics of both midsoles. We have got an 8mm heel to toe offset in version 1, and that was through a 47mm heel and a 39mm forefoot for that variance of 8mm. In the new version 2, 6mm offset. So we're going a little bit lower in the heel to toe pitch, and we're going a little bit closer to the ground. Actually a lot closer to the ground. We've now got 40 mils in the heel and 34 in the forefoot. So the overall stack height has changed by 7mm. That is a lot. That's a lot of change. However, New Balance have identified what they needed to do with the next iteration of this shoe, and I reckon they have absolutely nailed it, which we'll get to in a second. But fuel cell technology on offer in both the version 2 and coming from the version 1, executed it in a slightly different format with regards to the overall geometry of the positioning of this foam. So a little bit wider in the heel base, so therefore it's going to be a little bit more compliant for heel strikers. Slightly wider, and I'll use the outsole as a reference point as you come through to the mid stance of this gait cycle. So by flaring out the medial side of the outsole and giving more real estate for the midsole, and as you're coming through to the forefoot, oops, I dropped the shoe, you can see it is a slightly broader platform as well. So while we have come closer to the ground with stack height, we've actually increased the surface area. So you get a little bit more of a wider geometry setup, which I think is a fantastic play by New Balance. That was probably the only criticism we found with version 1. It was really nice, high stack, really effortless roll through this through the mid stance to toe face, because having a higher stack height, you can get quite aggressive with the carbon plate or the energy arc positioning. And that's what New Balance did do with version 1. And what I found interesting was the carbon plate starts a little bit closer to the ground underneath the heel. It comes up towards your midfoot, and that allows it, with the amount of stack height we have on offer, to get relatively aggressive with regards to the dip of the carbon plate through to the forefoot. And that was a good thing because it provided a really snappy, a really easy roll through to the front half of the gait cycle of this shoe. And a lot of runners really liked that and really enjoyed it. Some runners found it a bit too aggressive, and we're finding when you get a bit aggressive with that rocker, you can find an element or a percentage of runners to re-supinate out of their gait cycle because they want to gauge control, and they use their first metatarsal to re-stabilize their forefoot as they release out of their gait cycle. And that was probably one small criticism with this shoe, where they didn't absolutely nail the execution of that carbon plate for all the masses. Again, I say that because the majority of people loved what that midsole did and what it did for performance for them on their runs. Going to the version 2, as we touched on, being a lower stack height, brands need to get quite creative with providing a similar amount of compression and cushioning, a similar amount of stability, and then executing a similar amount of response through the forefoot, because that is what this shoe had made its name on. It's a very cushioned, very honest, very nice roll through to the forefoot, but New Balance addressed that they wanted to come a little bit closer to the ground with the stack height, so therefore they increased the surface area of that midsole, so providing a nice broad platform to offer a really stable ride, and then in execution with the fuel cell technology, which is a really soft foam underneath the body, but therefore the actual carbon plate starts a bit closer to the ground, a little bit more of a traditional setup with the carbon plate to what we've been used to the last 5 years. So that real cambered approach with version 1 was very unique in its design and its engineering and execution. However, version 2, we've gone a little bit more traditional with regards to what they have done with that carbon plate. But I like what New Balance have done with the execution. This midsole is very soft. I've said that a few times now. I just want to call that out because when you're making a soft shoe, it can bottom out quickly if you don't have too much structure and integrity within that midsole. So I do feel by lowering the stack height, repositioning that carbon plate, you're going to get a little bit more durability out of this shoe than what we did last year, potentially. I say that potentially because I haven't done enough kilometres inside version 2 to justify my statement. However, the overall performance is what we're looking at, and this shoe performs very, very well. Fantastic on entry, really stable through mid-stance, and I like the amount of response that this shoe provides on toe-off, which is absolutely fantastic. Okay, guys, a lot of information to take in with reference to what New Balance have done from version 1 to version 2. Touching on the outsole, you can see that we have really good coverage with regards to the overall execution. Looking at that medial and lateral border, both on the version 2 from version 1, you can see they've executed a similar concept. That vertical decoupled line, which is taking out components of the midsole, it's a little bit narrower in version 1 than what it was in version 2, and that's why this little pod through the forefoot is a little bit more elongated, a little bit longer in its design, so it covers a little bit more surface area of that carbon plate, showing off what New Balance have been renowned for with the Energy Arc technology. Coming to the midsole, that's probably where most of the changes occurred, of course. We know it's gone lower in stack height, 40mm heel, 34 forefoot for that offset of 6mm. Last year, it was 47 in the heel, 39 in the forefoot for a variance of 8mm. So significant change with regards to the overall stack height. Fuel cell technology on play. Carbon plate from heel through to forefoot in both shoes. However, being a lower stack height, it is a slightly more smoother transition through to the forefoot with reference to last year. They got quite aggressive with regards to the angle of approach through to the front half of this shoe. The upper, same technology, engineered mesh, however executed in slightly different ways. The lacing construction comes a bit further down in the forefoot, and the little Achilles flare provides a really nice conformed, comfortable fit around the back of the heel in comparison to what they had last year. Okay, guys, a quick summary on version 2. Now, I'm a big fan of version 2. I liked version 1, but I love version 2. And now I know a lot of runners out there, there'll be some people who won't like the version 2 as much as the version 1. That is totally fine. That is perfectly normal. When brands make changes, it doesn't mean everyone's going to love it. But I certainly feel by lowering the stack height, what New Balance have been able to execute is a lighter shoe. Now, this shoe here is versatile. It's designed to go out on the road for easy days. It's designed to be able to pick the pace up quite easily. And it's also designed to race in for some runners as well. It is almost 50 grams lighter in a size 9.5. 275 grams in a men's size 9.5. Last year, it was 320 grams in a 9.5. That's 45 grams variance. That's significant for a size 9.5 men's. Do the math. As you go up, 10, 11, 12, and so on, that number will grow in regards to the variance in weight from version 1 to version 2. The ladies' weight, it's changed from 226 grams in the current version 2 from the 265 grams in the previous version 1. So a significant change with the ladies as well. Now, why that's good and why I like that? Well, version 1 was absolutely fantastic, but it was a little bit on the heavy side, and that was probably the overall criticism of that shoe. It was fantastic for easy days, great to pick the pace up in, and obviously racing in for some people, but it was on the heavier side of running shoe weight. Dropping the weight, lowering that stack height, executing a nice conform upper, I think New Balance have absolutely nailed the brief for version 2. I'm extremely confident that a lot of runners out there are going to enjoy this shoe, and it is actually a little bit more accessible because it is a slightly lower stack height. Having a 47mm stack, which was what last year's model was, for someone getting into that shoe for the first time, it was significantly different than probably where they have come from with traditional mileage shoes. So making this a little bit more approachable or accessible, for want of a better term, by lowering that stack to 40mm, having that 6mm offset, I think a lot of runners out there will be able to transition into this shoe with a little bit more ease than what they did with version 1. So there you have it, guys. That is my take on version 2. If you've got any comments, questions, or theories about this shoe, drop it in the comment section below. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, hit the red button, stay notified, and we will keep pumping out these shoe reviews for you, the running community, all over the world, Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere. We don't care where you're from. We just love the fact that you're out there running, chasing your PBs, enjoying everything that running has to offer. So until next time, guys, stay safe, be kind to one another, happy running, and we'll see you out the road. Take care.